Okay, so let's dive in. We're tackling, well, arguably the most beloved food on Earth. Pizza.
Hard to argue with that.
Right. But we're going way beyond just, your favorite late night spot or that slice you remember from college.
Definitely.
This is more of a quest. We're exploring the history, the science behind it, the actual craft of what makes a pizza truly world class.
And we've looked at sources covering, everything. Culinary trips across Italy, Naples, Rome, even Genoa. And then the classic American pizza cities, New Haven, New York, Chicago, California, the whole map, really.
And the core idea, the thing that kind of ties it all together from the sources, it's this philosophy almost.
Exactly. It's not just about finding the single best pizza. That's almost beside the point. The main takeaway is, well, the hunt itself is the real reward. It's the adventure.
I love that quote from the material. It's all about the adventure, not the pizza. The pizza is just grace. That word, grace. It suggests something fleeting, special.
Yeah, like it's a gift you receive along the way, not the objective itself. It's profound, really. But often that whole quest kicks off because of, well, disappointment.
Right. The mama's moment, as the source calls it, when nostalgia bumps up against reality.
Precisely. The story starts with this childhood pizzeria, Mama's Pizzeria, just outside Philly, a place loved for years.
Oh, what happened? What was the moment?
It was just noticing a change. The crust wasn't the same anymore. It had gotten thicker. Yeah, and it lost those, those lovely air bubbles around the edge. The cornicione, they just weren't there. And that little detail, that technical slip, it kind of signaled that this beloved pizza, the one tied to all this personal history, maybe wasn't hitting the mark anymore on, like, objective quality.
Okay, so right away we need to make a distinction here. There are two kinds of perfect pizza we're talking about. Because Mama's might still be perfect for someone emotionally, right?
Absolutely. That's the key distinction the sources draw. First, there's contextual perfection. This is the pizza that satisfies you deeply because of your history with it.
Like the memory of it or the feeling it gives you?
Exactly. Maybe it's the place you went after a big win, or the pizza that comforted you when you were broke, like that Boston pizzeria for the struggling actor mentioned in the source. Contextually. Perfect. Technically, maybe not.
Got it. And the second type, the one the traveler is chasing.
That's paradigmatic perfection. This is about hitting objective benchmarks, things you can actually measure or clearly define.
Like what specifically?
We're talking the snap and the char on the crust, the right balance of acid and fat in the toppings, the quality of the San Marzano tomatoes, the mozzarella, and crucially, the pizzaioli's dedication. You can almost feel it.
A pizza maker's passion.
Yes, and that grace we mentioned. That happens when the two align. When the pizza that hits you emotionally is also technically brilliant, that's the rare magic.
Okay, so to find that paradigm, we obviously have to start in Naples, Italy, the source.
Absolutely. Naples is ground zero. The sources trace pizza's roots way back, even to Greek colonists in Neapolis making flatbreads. But Naples is where pizza as we know it was codified.
Right. And that led to organizations trying to protect it, didn't it? Like the DOC status.
Exactly. The Associazione della Vera Pizza Napolitana, the true Neapolitan Pizza Association. They fought for that DOC status, Denominazione di Origine Controllata.
Why was that so important?
Because Neapolitan style was starting to mean anything, watered down. They needed to lock down the definition before it became meaningless. They set super strict rules.
Like what kind of rules?
Oh, really specific stuff. Dough hydration levels, hand kneading only, minimum fermentation times like 8 to 24 hours sometimes, wood-fired ovens hitting crazy temperatures, 900 to 1,000 degrees Fahrenheit, specific tomatoes, specific oil. It was about preserving the standard.
And the most famous example of that standard is the margherita pizza, right? The story is legendary.
Totally. The Pizzeria Brandy story from 1589. Raffaele Esposito making pizzas for King Umberto Fight and Queen Margherita. He made 3 kinds. But the Queen supposedly loved the one with red tomatoes, white mozzarella, and green basil, the colors of the new Italian flag.
Wow.
So that simple pizza, the margherita, kind of elevated pizza from peasant food to something fit for royalty. It cemented its cultural importance.
So technically, what makes that classic Neapolitan style unique? We talked about the cornicione.
Yeah, the cornicione, the pucky edge, is key. The pizza itself is super thin in the center, often kind of wet. Actually, you generally eat it with a knife and fork.
Okay.
But that edge puffs up dramatically in the super hot oven. It gets blistered, charred. They call it leopard spotting. But inside, it should be soft and airy, almost like ciabatta bread. That contrast is classic Neapolitan, achieved in like 60 to 90 seconds of baking.
Crazy fast.
Yeah.
Now, you mentioned the DOC rules, but there's a common variation in practice, right? Something about the cheese.
Yeah, that's interesting. The strict DOC rules say you have to use mozzarella di bufala from water buffalo milk. It's amazing, super flavorful. But it's also really high in moisture. So when it melts in that hot oven, it can release a lot of water, making the center even soggier, kind of puddly.
Ah, I see.
So a lot of really great pizzerias in Naples, even though they follow all the other rules, they actually use fior di latte. That's fresh cow's milk mozzarella.
Mm-hmm.
It's less expensive, but crucially, it melts without getting quite so watery.
So a practical tweak, even in the homeland.
Exactly. A technical compromise for better texture, you could say.
Oh.
Still amazing pizza, just slightly different from the absolute letter of the law.
Okay, so Naples sets this standard of careful fermentation, tradition, specific techniques. Then we go north to Liguria, Genoa, home of focaccia, right? And things get weird.
Totally weird, in the best way possible. The source describes this experience with focaccia col formaggio di Recco, and it just flips the script on everything you think you know about great dough.
How so? Because Genoese focaccia itself isn't always that exciting, is it?
Often not. It can be kind of thick, maybe a bit boring. But this stuff from Recco, near Genoa, places like Da Vittorio, it's completely different. And the shocker, the dough is unyeasted.
No yeast. But isn't fermentation the key to flavor? That's what bakers always say. How can it be satisfying?
It's baffling, right?
Okay.
It proves that sometimes technique can just override the rules. The dough is literally just flour, water, salt. That's it.
So what's the technique?
The baker stretches it by hand until it's insanely thin, like see-through thin. Think strudel dough or phyllo. It's incredibly delicate work.
Wow. And the filling?
Dollops of this creamy, fresh cheese called stracchino. It's soft, tangy, a bit like mascarpone mixed with cream cheese, maybe. High fat, high moisture.
Oh, okay.
Then they cover that cheese with another sheet of the super thin dough. Crib the edges, poke a few vents, drizzle with olive oil, and bake it super hot.
And the result?
Crispy, chewy, salty, cheesy explosion. Utterly satisfying. And it comes from this dough that, yeah, seems frighteningly simple. No long fermentation, none of that stuff bakers obsess over.
That's kind of mind-blowing. Shows the power of just heat and handling.
Absolutely. And the source mentions the other amazing Ligurian food there, too, reinforcing the quality, like trophy col pesto, those little pasta twists with that amazing pesto. And pansati with walnut sauce, plus that little tidbit about blue jeans coming from the blue trousers of Genoese sailors. Just layers of history and flavor.
Cool. Okay, one more stop in Italy before we cross the ocean. Rome. How is Roman pizza different?
Roman style is all about thinness and crispness. If Naples has that puffy, soft edge, Rome's is ultra-thin, rigid, almost like a cracker.
Super crispy. How do they achieve that?
A key difference is often in the dough. Roman pizza dough frequently includes semolina flour.
Semolina, why?
It's a coarser flour. It makes the dough stiffer, less stretchy than the Neapolitan dough. Yeah. That stiffness lets them roll it out incredibly thin without it tearing easily.
Ah, okay.
And that semolina contributes to the final crispness, too, giving it more structure. So the whole pizza stays thin and snappy, edge to center.
And the source mentions that place, Da Buffetto, where the honeymooners ate 3 nights straight.
Yeah. A perfect example of that contextual and paradigmatic perfection clicking instantly. You're in Rome, soaking it all in, and you find this place that just nails that specific local style. It becomes more than just food. It's part of the travel memory.
Totally. Okay, let's head to America. Early 20th century Italian immigrants adapting the Neapolitan style. The first generation Neo-Neapolitan. And you have to start in New Haven, Connecticut.
New Haven is legendary. Wooster Street, specifically. That's where a pizza pronounced BPZ was born. Immigrants like Frank Pepe took Neapolitan ideas but used American ingredients and, crucially, coal-fired ovens.
Right, those super hot coal ovens.
Yeah, hitting maybe 1,200 degrees Fahrenheit. And the whole New Haven scene is defined by this intense rivalry, mainly between Frank Pepe Pizzeria Napolitana and Sally's a Pizza, right down the street.
Pepe's is probably the most famous, right? Especially for that white clam pizza.
Oh yeah, the white clam is iconic. Fresh clams, garlic, olive oil, grated cheese, totally unique. And Pepe's is still run by the family, Frank's grandkids. They even have the original tiny location next door called The Spot.
But even Pepe's isn't immune to that mama's moment, right? The feeling that maybe things aren't quite what they used to be.
Exactly. The sources mentioned some longtime fans feeling like maybe the standards have slipped a bit. Perhaps the dough's a little too oily sometimes, or the char isn't as consistent. It just shows how hard it is to maintain that absolute peak perfection, especially as places get bigger or older.
It's a constant battle. And Sally's, what's their signature?
Sally's was started by Sal Concilio, who actually worked for Frank Pepe first, hence the rivalry. Sally's pies are known for being maybe a bit more rustic, irregular shapes. And their tomato sauce is often described as a little sweeter.
Uh-huh.
They have die-hard loyalists, too. Locals call mozzarella mutts there. It's more than just pizza preference. It's like picking a sports team. Real tribal alliances form around these pizzerias. It shows how food gets woven into a community's identity.
And there's a third player, Modern Pizza.
Right, Modern's on State Street. They use oil-fired ovens, a bit different, but many argue their pizza, especially the sauce and their mutts with garlic pie, is right up there with, or even better than, Pepe's or Sally's. It's kind of the neutral ground favorite for some.
But the common thread for all New Haven pizza is that crust, right?
Absolutely. That intense coal-fired or oil-fired heat gives it this incredible smoky char and a definitive crunch. It's a very distinct style.
Okay, let's move down to New York City. And the first thing you hit is chaos. The Ray's Pizza Mystery.
Huh. Yeah, it's wild. Ray's, original Ray's, famous Ray's, not Ray's. All these places popped up, mostly unrelated. It became a running gag in the city. The actual original guy, Rosalino Mangano, was long gone from the first spot.
But the idea of Ray's kind of defined the New York slice, didn't it?
It really did. That big, foldable, relatively cheap slice you grab on the go, that became the quintessential NYC pizza experience for a long time.
Now, there's a clash of philosophies discussed regarding NYC pizza. The food critic Jeffrey Steingarten's focus on the crust.
Right, he famously said the crust is like 5 times more important than the toppings. At least 80% of the satisfaction comes from the crust.
But then the source describes an experience at DeFura's in Brooklyn, run by Dom DeMarco for decades.
Yeah, DeFar's kind of challenged that. Dom DeMarco's pizza. The sauce was apparently just sublime, incredible. The cheese combination, perfect. Fresh basil snipped over the top.
But the crust.
The crust, by Steingarten's strict structural rules, was maybe not perfect, sometimes a bit too thick, maybe a little limp. It didn't always have that ideal crispness.
So could amazing toppings overcome a less than perfect crust?
For the legions of DeFara's fans, the answer was a definite yes. That context, that flavor, the whole experience Dom created,
Yeah.
it transcended the technical flaw in the crust for many. It was contextual perfection winning out.
Interesting. So what defines that New York crust technically when it is done right?
It's typically medium thick, definitely more substantial than Neapolitan. It has a bread-like quality at the edge, the cornicione, but it thins out towards the middle point.
Which is why it flops.
Exactly, that classic New York flop when you hold it. And unlike Neapolitan dough, which has very little fat, New York style usually uses oil or some fat in the dough.
Why is that?
It helps tenderize the crust, especially when using high-protein American bread flour. It gives it a softer chew, makes it foldable, and helps it stand up to the heavier layer of sauce and cheese, typical of a NY slice.
Makes sense. Okay, moving into more modern territory. Third generation Neo-Neapolitan. California-style gourmet pizza.
Yeah.
The focus shifts, right?
Yeah, big shift. Here it becomes much more about the toppings, creative, high-end ingredients.
Like Spago, Wolfgang Puck.
Exactly.
Ah.
Ed Ledoux is the original pizza guy at Spago. He really pioneered using the pizza crust as a canvas for gourmet ingredients, things you'd never see on a traditional pizza.
The famous smoked salmon pizza.
Right. Smoked salmon, creme fraiche, dill, capers. It completely redefined what pizza could be. It opened the door to using anything, basically.
But this gourmet approach created a problem, didn't it? The Pizzaiolo dilemma.
Yeah, it's a really interesting point. In these high-end restaurants, places like Ches Panisse or Oliveto, known for amazing ingredients, the pizza station often isn't treated with the same respect as, say, the sauce station or the pastry station. Meaning, the person making the pizza might just be a line cook rotating through. They might not have deep expertise in dough fermentation or oven management. So even with perfect, expensive toppings.
The crust can be inconsistent.
Exactly. Day to day, the crust quality might vary wildly because the focus isn't necessarily on mastering that specific craft. It highlights that dilemma. Fantastic ingredients need an equally fantastic foundation.
Kind of proves Steingarten's point about the crust again, doesn't it?
It really does. So the focus shifted for some towards elevating the actual pizzaiolo, the craftsperson, back to a position of importance, not just treating pizza as another station.
And where does that lead? Even more experimental stuff.
Yeah, you see things pushing the boundaries even further, like the idea of sushi pizza, maybe raw tuna, eel sauce, on a totally different base, like a crisp tortilla or rye crisp. It challenges the definition of pizza itself, but it's still about flavor innovation.
Okay, one more major American innovation before we get into the science.
Mhm.
Grilled pizza from Providence, Rhode Island.
Yes, a Horno restaurant. George German and Johann Killeen basically invented this style in the early 80s. Apparently, it came from sort of misunderstanding how Italian wood-fired ovens worked. But they created something totally new and amazing.
What's the technique? It sounds intense.
It is very distinct. First, the dough balls rest in a lot of olive oil, like bathed in it.
Okay.
Then, they press it out by hand, really thin and irregularly shaped, not round, not square. German called the dough extensible, almost like a tortilla.
Then onto a grill.
A very hot charcoal grill, hardwood lump charcoal ideally. The oil helps it almost fry on the grill surface. It cooks until it's blistered and really charred on one side. This is the key part. They flip it, charred side up. Then they quickly top it. Cheese goes on first, melts immediately on the hot crust, and finish it over a cooler part of the grill just to heat the toppings.
Wow. That sounds like a totally different texture and flavor.
Completely. You get this amazing snap from the crust, a really intense smoky flavor from the charcoal, and the toppings taste super fresh because they're barely cooked. It's served in squares, usually eaten with a knife and fork. It's a whole different paradigm, born purely from technique and heat.
Incredible. Okay, just quickly, a couple of other regional things mentioned. Chicago deep dish always comes up.
Right. It's almost more like a casserole or a pie
Yeah.
than what most people think of as pizza. And even within Chicago, there's debate.
Right.
You've got the Lou Malnati's or Pizzeria Unadu style.
Yeah.
Generally a thinner, crispier crust, often with cornmeal, almost like a savory biscuit.
Okay.
Then you have places like Gino's East, where the crust is much thicker, softer, more like a dense cornbread. People have very strong opinions about which is better. Another tribal food allegiance.
And that Sardinian bread, carta di musica.
Yeah, that's like the ultimate thinness quest. Sheet music bread. It's baked brittle, like a cracker. Apparently too fragile for restaurant pizza, the source says Mario Batali tried, but it inspired people trying to achieve that super cracker crisp base at home. Shows the opposite extreme from a puffy Neapolitan crust can also be a kind of perfection.
Okay, this is fascinating. Let's dig into the science now. The crust. You mentioned Steingarten's 80% rule. It really is the foundation.
Absolutely. You can have the best toppings, imported San Marzano tomatoes, fancy cheese. If the crust is bad, the whole thing fails. It's the unifier. It carries everything else.
And why are so many crusts just okay, especially from chains or frozen?
Well, the sources point to priorities. Chains often prioritize speed and absolute consistency over everything else. No-brainer consistency, as one source puts it.
Right.
That means processes that are fast and easily repeatable by staff who might not be highly trained bakers. Quality dough takes time, and time is often the enemy of that business model.
So to fight that mediocrity at home or in a good pizzeria, the secret weapon is time. Specifically, delayed fermentation. What's happening chemically?
It's all about enzymes. Flour is mostly complex starch. For great flavor and color, you need to break that starch down into simple sugars. Enzymes, like amylase, do this naturally in the dough.
But it takes time.
Yes, it takes hours, maybe 5 to 7 hours at room temperature, for those enzymes to really do their work effectively. If you rush the dough, you bake it before enough simple sugars have been created.
And those simple sugars do what? Taste good.
They do taste slightly sweet, but more importantly, they're crucial for browning and complex flavor development during baking. They fuel the Maillard reaction and caramelization.
Ah, the browning reactions.
Exactly. That gives you the beautiful golden color, the dark leopard spots, and those rich, savory, toasted flavors. Without enough simple sugars, the crust stays pale and tastes flat, like raw flour.
So putting the dough in the fridge, delaying the fermentation, how does that help?
It's a magic trick. The cold temperature slows down the yeast activity dramatically. The yeast basically goes dormant.
Oh,
but the enzymes, the amylase breaking down starch, they keep working just much more slowly. So over 24, 48, even 72 hours in the fridge, you get this slow, steady conversion of starch to sugar.
Maximizing the sugar content.
Exactly. So when you finally bake it, you have way more sugar available for incredible flavor and browning. Plus, it makes the dough easier to handle and gives you flexibility. You could bake it tomorrow or the next day. It's a win-win.
Okay, and when you're making the dough, kneading is key for gluten. How do you know when you've kneaded enough? The window pane test.
Yes, the window pane test is the classic check. Flour proteins, gluten, and gliadin link up when you add water and knead, forming gluten strands.
Hmm.
That's what gives dough its structure and elasticity.
Right.
So you take a small piece of dough, gently stretch it thinner and thinner. If you can stretch it so thin that light passes through it without it tearing immediately, like a little window pane,
Yeah.
then your gluten is well developed.
Meaning it can trap the gas from the yeast and rise properly.
Exactly. It has the strength and elasticity it needs.
Now, the sources mention that wetter doughs, higher hydration, make better crusts, even though they're harder to work with. Why is that?
Higher hydration means more water relative to flour. That extra water turns into steam more dramatically when the pizza hits the hot oven.
Ah, creating lift.
Yes, more steam means a more open, airy structure inside the crust, especially in the cornicione. It makes it lighter, puffier. It definitely takes more skill to handle without tearing, but the texture payoff is significant.
And you mentioned oil in American doughs earlier.
Yeah, especially in New York or Neo-Neapolitan styles, using stronger, higher protein flour. A little oil or fat helps tenderize the gluten structure, preventing the crust from becoming too tough or overly chewy. It makes it more yielding.
Okay, let's talk about the oven. This seems like the biggest hurdle for home cooks. Commercial ovens get so much hotter.
They do. 650 to 1,000 degrees, even 1,200 for coal. They have incredible heat retention, thermal mass. Home ovens just can't compete directly. They leak heat, they cycle on and off.
So what can you do?
Maximize the heat you do have and store it. First rule, preheat for way longer than you think. At least 45 minutes, maybe even an hour. Not just the 15 minutes until the light goes off.
Why so long?
Because you need to heat the stone. You absolutely need a baking stone or unglazed quarry tiles in there. That's your thermal battery. It absorbs heat slowly, and you need it fully saturated.
So it blasts the bottom of the crust with heat.
Exactly. That intense radiant heat from the stone mimics the floor of a brick oven. That's what gives you the crisp, blistered bottom crust. If the stone isn't hot enough, the bottom stays pale and soft while the top burns.
Which brings us to the coordination problem. Getting top and bottom done at the same time. The Chris Bianco broiler trick.
This is such a smart hack. You preheat your oven and stone on the highest bake setting. Then, right before you slide the pizza in, you switch the oven to broil for maybe 30 seconds to a minute.
Broil? What does that do?
The broiler element is usually at the top of the oven. Turning it on briefly blasts the top of the oven cavity with intense radiant heat. It mimics the heat radiating down from the dome in a brick oven.
Giving the toppings a head start.
Precisely. It starts cooking and blistering the top of the pizza immediately. Then you quickly switch it back to bake as you slide the pizza onto the stone.
Sure.
It helps everything finish much more evenly.
Genius. And for serious folks, there are things like hearth kits.
Yeah, those are inserts that try to create a more enclosed, high-heat environment around the pizza stone inside a standard oven. Probably the closest you can get to brick oven results at home without buying a dedicated pizza oven. Convection settings can help too, speeding things up.
Good tips. Okay, quickly on sauce and cheese. Sauce needs to be bright.
Yeah, vibrant. Not dull or stewed tasting. Use good quality canned tomatoes, like San Marzanos. The trick is not to overcook the sauce before it goes on the pizza,
Why not?
because it's going to cook again in that super hot oven. You want to preserve some of that fresh tomato acidity. Adding a tiny splash of red wine vinegar or lemon juice can help boost that brightness too.
And cheese. Mozzarella is king, but there are nuances.
Definitely. You need to know the difference between fresh mozzarella, the wet bufala or fior di latte, and the drier, low-moisture mozzarella, the kind you grate, often called mutts.
Which is better?
For most pizza styles other than strict Neapolitan, low moisture melts better and is less watery. But the real key is often blending.
Blending.
Yeah. Combine a good melting cheese, like that full-fat, low-moisture mozzarella for the stretch and gooiness, with a harder, aged cheese like Parmigiano Reggiano or Pecorino Romano.
For flavor.
Exactly. The aged cheese adds saltiness, sharpness, complexity, that umami depth that mozzarella alone doesn't have. That combo is often the secret to really flavorful pizza.
Okay, we've covered tradition, region, science. But the sources keep coming back to something less tangible. The human element. The Pizzaiola's soul.
Yes. And that idea is perfectly captured by Chris Bianco at Pizzeria Bianco in Phoenix. He's like the embodiment of this philosophy.
The source mentions he refused to franchise even when offered big deals in Vegas. Why?
His answer was just so direct. He said, "The secret is me. I'm the secret. It's my passion, my energy, my commitment." He knew he couldn't replicate himself. He couldn't bottle his dedication and sell it.
That's intense. He sees pizza as more than just food.
Oh, completely. He calls it his metaphor for life. He talks about striving for absolute perfection in every single pizza, connecting with every customer, even remembering almost every pizza he's ever made.
Wow.
It transforms the act of making and eating pizza from just a meal into this really deep personal exchange. That's the pizzaiolo's soul in action.
And there's one pizza that really exemplifies this. The Rosa.
The Rosa pizza. It's like the ultimate expression of his philosophy because it breaks rules, but with total conviction. No tomato sauce at all.
No sauce. What's on it?
Red onions, good aged Parmigiano Reggiano, fresh rosemary, and pistachios.
Pistachios.
Yeah. It sounds unusual, but the flavor profile, savory, herbal, sharp, nutty, it's apparently incredible. It's purely his voice, his vision on a crust. The metaphor within the metaphor, as the source says.
So this brings us back to that idea of the two perfections meeting.
Exactly. The peak experience happens when the the pizza that resonates with you personally aligns with the paradigmatic, the pizza that is technically flawless because of the maker's intense commitment.
Mind and heart together.
Right. And you see that commitment in other places too, like Tacanelli's in Philly mentioned in the sources. Their system is famous.
They make you reserve the dough balls in advance.
Yeah. They only make a certain number of dough balls each day based on proper fermentation time. You have to call ahead and reserve yours. They won't just whip up an extra batch if they run out.
Why be so rigid?
It's pure quality control. It shows dedication. They refuse to compromise the process just to sell a few more pies. They know exactly how many perfect pizzas they can make that day, and that's it.
And you can taste that commitment.
Apparently so. People rave about the quality, saying it rivals New Haven. It proves that the attitude, the care, the soul of the pizzaiolo, it's not just talk. It's a tangible ingredient you can taste.
Okay, so let's try and wrap this up. If you're listening and you want to understand or even make great pizza, what are the key takeaways from this deep dive?
I think it boils down to three main things. First, the crust is king. You absolutely have to respect the time and the science. That means long, slow, probably cold fermentation.
Delayed fermentation.
Right. And understanding gluten development, that window pane test, and really managing your oven heat, especially at home with that long preheat and maybe the broiler trick. Get the foundation right.
Okay, number one, respect the crust and the time it needs. Number two,
appreciate the diversity. There isn't one single perfect style. Naples is amazing, but so is Roman thin crust, so is New Haven char, so is that crazy Ligurian cheese bread, so is grilled pizza. Excellence exists in many forms. Judge a pizza against its own paradigm.
Good point. Don't expect a Neapolitan pie in Chicago.
And the third takeaway, it's the human element, the pizzaiolo. Chris Bianco's secret ingredient, that passion, that dedication, that soul. It's what elevates pizza from good food to actual culinary art. Yeah. It's what bridges the gap between technically good and truly memorable, that connection between the maker and the eater.
Which leads perfectly into that final provocative thought you mentioned earlier, stemming from Bianco's refusal to franchise.
Right. If that personal commitment, that unbottleable soul, is essential for the absolute highest level of pizza. What does that mean for perfection in a world obsessed with scale and consistency?
Is true culinary perfection, that perfect alignment of contextual and paradigmatic, fundamentally unscalable, doomed to be hyperlocal and rare?
It's a tough question, isn't it? As we push for efficiency and replicability in food, are we inevitably sacrificing that spark of individual craft that creates those moments of pure grace? What's the trade-off between reaching many and truly moving a few?
Something definitely worth thinking about. Maybe next time you're hunting for that perfect slice, consider the hands that made it, not just the ingredients list.
Exactly. Look for the soul. That might be the real adventure,